back, Gothamites. If you're new here, I'm London, aka History of the Batman. So over the last week, a new study has been floating around the interwebs, saying that superheroes or the good guys are more violent or will perform more violent acts in media such as film than the villains or the bad guys, presenting the question of whether or not kids watching this media will want to emulate or be like the superheroes and perform these violent acts, rationalizing it with the fact that the good guys did it, so it's okay. And that explanation is in a very hollow nutshell. If you want to dive in more to this study, I will link it in the description below because personally, I found it interesting. Because do I think that it's bad that a kid wants to be Spider-Man? Not necessarily, because even though he's fictional, he does exist for the purpose to show that it is good to be a good guy and do good acts in life, which I think in the real world, that is the basis that everyone should go off of. Everyone should try to be good, even if they're not wearing tights. But of course, reading this study this week, I thought about Batman because I can pretty much tie in Batman to anything you can think of. If you don't believe me, ask my family sometime. I already did an entire video that discussed whether or not Batman is a good role model for those who read the comics and watch the media. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll also link that in the description below because I think it is a good way to look at the pros and cons of deciding whether or not Batman is a good influence to those who read and watch his media. And one of the cons that I discuss in the video is the fact that Batman at times can be very, very violent. And whether or not being that violent is actually a good thing for people to want to aspire to do or to be. Because if you think about it, Batman has this modern moral code of no killing, yet he will do literally everything to a criminal to land him in the hospital nightly. And although many can say that it's for the greater good and those bad guys had it coming, etc., etc., it still in certain media can be super violent. I thought in light of this study that's causing so much buzz, we will highlight 5 of the most violent moments ever in Batman's history in comic books. And I'm going to do my best not to litter this 5 moments list with just Batman killing because I can fill up all 5 moments just with him killing someone within his history. And to be honest, that's not really fun, so I want a challenge. And in these moments, we will see if the acts themselves are justifiable or just dramatic overkill, and what this says overall about Batman's crusade for justice. Before we dive into the video, why don't you subscribe to this channel and become a part of this wonderful Gothamite community. Number 5 is the moment when Batman almost kills the Joker in Jeff Loeb's Batman Hush. The Batman-Joker dynamic is always fun to highlight on any list because for many the two characters complete each other in a very dysfunctional way. But in 2003's Batman 614, part 7 of Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee's arc Batman Hush, which if you don't know the complete story, I did a fun 1-minute history on Batman Hush that I will put in the description if you're curious. Batman almost took the Joker's life when he thought that Joker killed his childhood friend, with a very huge question mark at the end of that, Tommy Elliot, by shooting him. So combining Joker's seemingly recent kill and everything else that he has done to the Batman family, from killing the second Robin, Jason Todd, to shooting and paralyzing Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl and Oracle, Batman pretty much made up his mind to just literally beat Joker to death with his fists. And everyone tried to stop him, from Harley Quinn to protect her Joker, to Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, because she loves Batman, but no one could get through to him except the one person that was a very odd surprise in telling him not to kill the Joker, and that is Commissioner Gordon. He not only didn't want Batman to kill Joker because he knew that he would be the one leading the citywide manhunt for the Dark Knight if he did, but he didn't want Batman to break his moral code of killing. So Batman snaps out of killing Joker, and Joker is literally left on the alley ground, bleeding a lot. This fight, which was very one-sided, was super bloody, but of course very beautiful because of the work by Jim Lee and Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair. And if you think about it, does Joker deserve to be violently beaten like that? Of course he does. It's interesting because it does raise the fan favorite question of, should Batman kill the Joker? And if he did kill the Joker, would that actually ruin his moral compass? Something to think about. Our number 4 moment is having John Paul Valley as Azrael Batman. I love talking about Nightfall because this is the arc that literally got me into reading Batman comics, so it's amazing. In the early 1990s, there was a DC Comics crossover event that spanned across the arcs Batman Nightfall, Batman Night Quest, and Batman Night's End, where in Nightfall, the villain Bane systematically takes down Bruce Wayne's Batman by breaking his back. And while Bruce recuperates from this injury and also does other things that he really shouldn't be doing because he should just be focusing on his spine that got snapped in two like a Slim Jim, he appoints John Paul Valley, aka Azrael, to be the next Batman. Because, you know, asking people like Dick Grayson would just be totally out of the question and not right. Said no one ever. While Bruce had great intentions when appointing John Paul Valley, his Batman is 10 times more violent towards criminals in Gotham. From low-life thieves to villains such as the Scarecrow and the Joker. Joker has had so far a really hard time on this list. Unintentionally, but like I said, he probably deserves it. John Paul Valley even transforms the Batsuit to have more weapons and become even deadlier than it already is. And since this is making Bruce Wayne's Batman's crusade even more violent, Commissioner Gordon takes notice and decides that perhaps I shouldn't trust this vigilante after all. Although Azrael's Batman defeats Bane, who is the man who broke the Bruce Bat, once Bruce is actually healed from his injuries by Bane, John Paul Valley doesn't want to give up the mantle as Batman, and him and Bruce have to duke it out, and of course, Bruce is victorious. But even though his time was short as Batman, John Paul Valley's time as the Caped Crusader is very, very violent, spanning from issues in Batman Detective Comics and Batman Shadow of the Bat. And if you think about it, him being extra violent was completely unnecessary. He felt that he needed to beat these villains to a bloody pulp to get his message across to the people of Gotham. But instead, he just lost the trust of people from Gordon to the current Robin, Tim Drake, and they became afraid of him. Even though Batman can be violent at times, and this is what our video is about, overall, Batman just wants to keep the city of Gotham safe. And if the people don't find Batman helpful in that crusade, then what's the point? So in this case, Batman's violent history within this saga was totally just for dramatics and not what actually the citizens needed. Our number 3 moment is when Batman turns Ra's al Ghul into dust in space. This story is a trip, so strap in. I'm excited. It's literally one of my favorite Batman stories from the 1980s. And that's saying a lot because there were a lot of amazing stories for Batman in the 80s. In 1982's Batman Annual number 8, Mike W. Barr and Trevor Von Eaton create the story of the Messiah of the Crimson Sun, who hops from town to town by incinerating its entire population. And which city is next on the list? Why, Gotham, of course! Batman and Robin try to track down this Messiah by doing things such as joining a cult, which of course is the usual. And through all this, Batman discovers 2 things. One, in order to do this to an entire population, you A, put a special chemical within the water supply of that town. So this chemical is, in this current time, within the Gotham City water supply. And B, you use this special red sunlight beam to hit these people, and once the chemical and the light come together, the people crumble into dust. And the second thing is that the Messiah of the Crimson Sun is no one other than Ra's al Ghul. Because Raz's thing is to wipe out large populations. That's just what he likes to do. Once Raz learns that Batman, Robin, and even his daughter Talia al Ghul, because she decided to choose Team Bruce and not Team Father, learn about his plan, he runs to his space station base and gets ready the red sunlight beam to hit Gothamites who have this chemical in their bodies courtesy of the water supply. Then a fight ensues between Batman and Raz on the space shuttle that takes off into space. This is the comic where Batman learns that Ra's al Ghul comes back to life through the use of Lazarus pits, which kind of causes the whole immortality thing. After he gets this little bit of news, they play a very safe game of Russian roulette, and they both ingest the chemical, so the first person who gets hit with the red sunlight beam will actually just turn into dust. If you don't play this game on the weekend with your friends, you need to get new friends. But Batman has rigged the control of the red sunlight beam through remote control because he's Batman and is able to hit Ra's al Ghul with it when he tries to escape on a smaller pod, and Ra's al Ghul goes poof into dust in space. What's the best panel is that Robin is actually super shook by it because he's like, you just killed Raz, and Batman's response is just, or did I? And it's like, yes, you just turned this man into dust. But considering Raz's plan as the Messiah of the Crimson Sun to wipe out most of Earth's population, I say that this was a solid A for effort on Batman's part in thinking of a new creative way to beat up a criminal. And since it's Ra's al Ghul, you know he's gonna come back somehow through the Lazarus pits. You know, his dust will come together from space and just hop right in there. I'm sure it'll work itself out. It's fine. But still, vaporizing your villain is a special new level of violence, which is why it deserved the number 3 spot. Our number 2 moment is when Batman burns criminals alive on Gotham City's dock. This is another story that I absolutely love. So just for the record, Frank Miller's Batman can have a list about the 5 most violent moments all on its own, because for some reason Frank Miller's Batman is always extra violent. But this moment is particularly violent for no real reason. So if you aren't familiar, in the mid to late 2000s, Frank Miller and Jim Lee did an arc called All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, which is part of the very short-lived All-Star imprint within DC Comics. And it's basically a retelling of Dick Grayson's origin story. And in my opinion, this story is a very satirical observation of the Batman mythos and its title character. So I think that's the reason why the violence, everything, is way more extreme than usual. From Batman's treatment to Dick Grayson to the way that he treats criminals. Like burning them with fire on a Gotham City dock, which I've already kind of discussed this sequence in my video 5 women that Batman has definitely had sex with in DC Comics. So if you haven't seen that fun video, I'll link that in the description below as well. But in issue 7 of All-Star Batman, Batman is trying to hunt down Jocko Boy Vanzetti, the man who killed Dick Grayson's parents, and it leads him to the Gotham City docks, where Batman decides to not only beat up his associates, but literally burn them alive. And what is a great bonus is that while they are burning alive in the distance, in the rain, on these Gotham City docks, Batman proceeds to have sex with Black Canary, who for some reason finds all of this very sexy, and for some reason people burning alive is an aphrodisiac to her. This entire series is very violent and shows a very violent Batman. So even though him burning his associates, not even Jocko Boy himself, the man who actually killed the parents, but just his crew, him burning them is unnecessary. But I suppose within this certain Batman persona, it fits. So sure. Fine. Our number 1 moment is that Batman makes contingency plans against the entire Justice League in Tower of Babel. Now, even though Batman in Mark Waid's JLA arc doesn't actually throw punches at the Justice League, he might as well have and also stabbed them in the back. If you aren't familiar, Mark Waid and Howard Porter did a story in JLA called Tower of Babel, where Batman has made contingency plans against the Justice League, from Superman to Wonder Woman to Plastic Man, and had them filed away and would use them just in case any member of the Justice League would ever go rogue and turn evil. And every plan could ultimately kill every single Justice League member. But of course, this gets into the wrong hands of Ra's al Ghul. See, he made it from space. It's fine. And he uses these plans to push the JLA out of the way so he can go on with his own scheme to wipe out most of Earth's population in a cleanse of sorts to restart the population anew. You know, his usual shtick. While many fans of this story say that this epitomizes Batman's brilliance, doesn't it also show how neurotic he is? And probably over nothing? I mean, think about it. Superman is like his BFF, and he's a Boy Scout. Bruce knows him very well. I don't think he would ever turn rogue or turn evil. Besides that time in Superman Red Sun, but that is a whole different story, so... But yeah, he wouldn't do that. Isn't this whole thing a betrayal of trust on Batman's end? Or is it just Batman being very Batman? I mean, it could be both. But Batman creating these contingency plans can easily be argued as one of the most violent moments within his comic book history. I mean, think about it. He planned to take out some of the most powerful heroes within the entire DC universe. And with these plans, what if Batman went rogue himself and decided to take out the JLA and just take control of everything? There are too many variables to not see how Batman is super dangerous within this series, which is why I placed this at #1 on our short list. Now, in conclusion, going back to the original study that was presented in the beginning of this video, do I think that kids who will read Batman or watch Batman want to go out and burn people alive? No, not really. But I do think that Batman has had some pretty intense, violent moments throughout his long and evolving mythology. Whether or not you like Batman's violence or the fact that Batman has killed a couple people in his time, it is all a part of his very long and fascinating history within DC Comics. And all of it shapes the way that we observe Batman and learn about his personal crusade for fighting justice, one punch at a time. Thanks so much for watching the 5 most violent moments that Batman has ever had in DC Comics. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a bat thumbs up. Along with all of the videos and the study that will be in the description below, also is all of my social media, so why don't you give it a follow, including Instagram at History of the Batman, so you become a Gothamite. Check out my comic reviews for Comicosity, and of course, please subscribe to this channel so you can become a part of this awesome Batman community. It would mean so much to me. Thanks so much for watching, and we will have more History of Batman soon, right here on YouTube. Remember, Gothamites, it's all about peace, love, and Batman. Bye.